It's now time to confer the second Lifetime Achievement Award for tonight, to recognise a very special person indeed. To tell us more, a woman who's fit two lifetimes into one. Please welcome back Prue McSween.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, in 1985, when there really wasn't an events industry to speak of, guys, can you hear me over there? Listen up, as they say. This mad son suddenly appeared out of nowhere, and he took Sydney by storm. He didn't leave an established company and steal clients, and he didn't go to a good school, so he didn't have a lot of influential mates. His family were of ordinary means, with no contacts. He had no track record in the industry, and no one knew he existed. He worked from a portable office in his shabby electric blue Laser and talked the talk and walked the walk. His events were, and remain, one of the creative benchmarks for a very competitive industry. And that's what made him stand out all this time, from day one, back in 1985. His parties on the social calendar were mad, they were bad, they were stylish, daring, beautiful, and simply like no other. The Cointreau Ball, of which he produced 9 of the 11, became legendary in the Australian party world. He ignored every rule and regulation, or had them rewritten. He disdained authority, and still does. Avoided the everyday, and today continues to create moments of great magic and often poetry of unrivaled style, fun, and glamour. No challenge was ever too hard. He burnt down a Port Douglas sugarcane field 4 times a year for inbound US incentive winners. They just had to dodge the cane toads and snakes. And even though the industry at that time didn't have any of the myriad of suppliers you could call on to help today, he somehow just made things pop out of thin air and made it look so easy. He bought the first truly portable kitchen for the first large-scale off-site event, sewed the first chair cover, ordered the first all-clear marquee, bought the first fairy lights, prosaic and passé now, of course, but revolutionary then, and he convinced one-man band technical operators, chefs and florists, entertainers, you name it, that perhaps there was a proper living to be made from this seemingly crazy world of events. He was the first to illuminate an Australian city when he lit 9 buildings, including the Opera House, Harbour Bridge and Centre Point Tower. He lit them blue for a perfume launch in 1990. He was the first to close a public space for a corporate event, and was always the first to put his hand up when someone came up with an idea that probably couldn't be done. He was the first to put Dodgem cars in a ballroom, created a white water rafting track for an underwater party for me in a 6-story car park. He was the first to have a party on a floating pontoon, in a sewer, on a beach. I'm glad I wasn't invited to that one. On a beach, in a jail. He did camel polo and won an international event for me. And that was the first. He was also the first to use DJs when only a band would do. He was the first to dress the waiters in something bespoke, the first to engage with the very best in every field to bring style, substance and real flair that made events slicker and funnier and far more aspirational than they have ever been to date. And people noticed. Budgets for the entire industry started to climb. And today, his exceptional work for the most discerning clients in the arts, media, fashion, luxury, finance, sport and political world are as fresh as ever. Importantly, he was the first to passionately and tirelessly explain to clients that party planners had the skills and ability and the flair that deserved decent recognition and a decent pay. He used his contacts from his previous career in theatre, television and journalism, plus his never say die attitude, to truly blaze a trail for an industry that even 30 years later he still amazingly remains at the bruising forefront of. And he's now ably supported by his creative team of 8, led by his heir apparent and partner Katerina, who's beside him. His unflagging, often controversial sense of humour, even in the scariest adversity, is quite legendary. When he produced a series of events for President Clinton's official visit to Sydney in 1996, he was ordered to play the official presidential anthem, Hail to the Chief, on Clinton's arrival during the worldwide CNN broadcast at the Botanic Gardens Fleet Steps. But instead, to the horror of the White House and the Australian government, he took it upon himself to play Clinton's favourite song, the big band swing classic Sing, Sing, Sing. Bill and Hillary laughed and entered the event on live international television with a smiling energy lacking till that moment. At the cursory lightning-quick handshake farewell post the event, Clinton, when introduced to Grant as the event's producer, quipped, you're that crazy guy. Thank the Lord, you made my day. I love Australians." But for some reason, he's never worked for the Prime Minister's department again. I remember he once bet me $100 to say fuck in my first sentence at a very formal high-level government meeting full of very stuffed shirt heads of departments. Well, I won that bet, much to their shock and horror, but at least it broke the ice. And I never got another gig again either. His innate sense of what's hot and what's not, and his rare ability to entertain kings and queens, celebrities and the everyday man and woman in the street keeps him as engaged, as vibrant and as relevant today as he ever was. Incredibly, he's done over 5,000 events. He's produced the VIP events for 10 summer and winter Olympic Games, more than any other event producer, and has worked constantly throughout the USA. He's won over 35 industry awards, including MEA's Australian Event Organiser of the Year, a record 10 times. He was awarded an Order of Australia, AM, in 2005 in the Queen's Birthday Australian Honours List. For through it all, he remains the same down-to-earth, imaginative bloke who never stops striving to do the best events he can, day in, day out, across 3 amazing decades. He's my kind of guy. He drinks, he swears, he stays out late, he drives like a demon, parks illegally, and even today he still climbs ladders to rig the impossible. But regardless, he's still top of his game. He gives back to the industry by constantly taking time to speak at industry events, obscure educational facilities, to random people who ring for advice weekly, friends, competitors, anyone. Yet, 5 hernias, 1 back rebuild, 1 knee reconstruction, various other war wounds from this hands-on predilection, and somehow surviving on only 4 hours sleep a night, he's still somehow standing. You know, IOC President Samaranch once famously said of him in the lead up to the Athens Olympics, "Call Lord Grant, he's the only person after Stalin that could possibly fix this mess you've got us into." And as the creative director for Sports Illustrated in New York once said, "How does that crazy motherfucker think up that undoable shit and then make it 10 times better than we ever thought possible, and we're supposed to be party central?" His work has also taken him to every corner of Australia and the world, including the most obscure and difficult locations, where he's taken great delight in nurturing the local event communities. He's a genuine character that helps shape and continues to push the boundaries of your industry. He's made it a bigger and better industry for us all to work in. He's a unique character, a wonderful man. It's my honour to call to the stage my mate and colleague and the 2014 Lifetime Achievement Award recipient, David Grant.
Thanks very much. I'm not really a speaker, and there shouldn't be a side angle, but I just wanted to. I think like Johnny Trevilian, it was a great thing to be nominated for this award, and it's a great industry that we all, you all love it sometimes, and you hate it the rest of the time. But it's terrible hours, great money, and it's great to see in this room tonight. I mean, I've got a lot of clients and people I should thank, but really John Trevilian, who was the first person that when there were no really corporate events in Australia until the Bicentennial 88, really that anybody ever heard of, was the only person in kind of government that gave encouragement to event people to kind of produce events, and he was very encouraging. Terrible ideas, he still accepted them and somehow finagled you out of them, and he still remains that person today, and as you can see, a charming and a fantastic human being. If we could all be like John, we'd be miles ahead. Johnny Allen, who was kicked out of Sid Vicious's bed in New York in the 70s, who drove around Australia in a Kombi and founded Nimbin and the drug culture that's there since survived. But Johnny Allen was the first corporate event producer at Darling Harbour, and he was an amazing and encouraging bloke, and Darling Harbour was quite a new thing then in the 80s, and to have, public fireworks and, bands of merrymakers and a whole range of kind of weird and wonderful thing you normally wouldn't go and see. He was pretty good at encouraging and founding, and I see Sandy Holway there, who really, with Ian Steingrad and Johnny, have kept this event awards thing alive. And it feels a bit corny, kind of, winning one maybe, and I'm the youngest by a mile. But but really, Ian Steingrad, particularly for keeping these awards going, I think it's a great thing for our industry, and I think a great recognition. And so do Ian and Johnny and Ignatius Jones, one of the greatest creative producers Australia's I think ever produced, with Anthony and Rodney Cambridge, and I know Barry and the Riser team are fantastic, and Mark, who's won an award there tonight, do a great job, and Di Henry, who's a great unfathomable kind of person. It's a great industry, and I think when you've been around it for 30 years, you wonder why you're still doing it, and then you jump on the private jet and fly to Tahiti, but not really, and then. But it's a rewarding industry, and I'd like to just also finally just thank without all of the people in this room, without our suppliers, we wouldn't be anywhere in this business. I've had the same suppliers. Tony Davies was a little kind of chunky lighting person, he still is. Chris Kennedy was an old weird kind of psycho, still is. Michael Hassett, we won't talk about Michael, but a fantastic person. And those people are still going, and when I speak to some of the younger people at my table and they say, do you know a lot of people? You just realise over that period of time, if you're just nice and polite to people, and I was always one for ringing, fierce competitors of mine. Tony Assis was his name at the time, and he's a very snobby kind of person. And I'd ring and say, I saw that event you did, it was just amazing. Who is it? It's David Grant. What do you do? I do events. What do you know? But I just rang him ceaselessly till he needed money for drugs. Then I thought, fuck you. You're on your own dole, and as it turns out, he now is. But so I think working for those suppliers and those tenderers and companies, and I think picking the suppliers that you can work for and trying to share the love with other people, you all end up with a job with somebody else over the period of the time. So I'd like to thank all of those people, and particularly Katerina, who's my professional and personal partner in life, for doing a great job in rebuilding my business. So to you, Kat, and to everybody else, thanks very much. Thank you.